Now we come to one of the most popular genres, which is comedy. Some examples of comedy, which are not hard for you to figure out because it's such a popular genre. You have Wreck-It Ralph, Megamind, Shrek, the TV show SpongeBob SquarePants, Despicable Me, Toy Story, just to name some examples. A lot of animation in that category because most animated movies tend to fall into the comedy category. In a comedy, the protagonist, your main character, is a very flawed person who usually has a good heart and is well-meaning. So if you take Woody from Toy Story, he's a good guy. He's just got a flaw. He's really prone to being jealous. Or you take SpongeBob SquarePants. He's got a huge heart. He's just not the sharpest tool in the shed. The protagonist and antagonist usually want the same thing and end up in fierce competition against each other. So if you take, for example, Shrek. Shrek falls for Princess Fiona. Lord Farquaad wants Princess Fiona. They both are after the same thing, which puts them into direct competition with each other. You have Woody in Toy Story, and you have Buzz, who becomes Andy's favorite toy, and Woody was Andy's favorite toy, and so Woody's jealous, so it puts him into direct conflict with Buzz. So that's a common theme in comedy and a way to get the story moving, because the comedy occurs as the antagonist and the protagonist compete for the same thing. There are three types of characters that are usually in a comedy. You'll usually see at least two of these three characters, but the really good comedies usually have all three at some point in the story. First, you have the child. The child overreacts to everything. Now, that doesn't mean the character is literally a child. It just means this is how they behave. The child overreacts to everything. If you take SpongeBob SquarePants, the show, you have SpongeBob, you have Patrick, and you have Squidward. Who do you think is the child out of those three? So if you said SpongeBob, I think you're right. SpongeBob usually is the child. He's usually the overreactor. Then you have the robot. The robot underreacts to everything. The robot is again, just kind of, it doesn't mean they're actually a robot, just means they're very robotic. They're very methodical in the way they approach the world, and they usually underreact to everything. Like if you take, for example, again in SpongeBob, which of the three do you think between Patrick and Squidward and SpongeBob is the robot? If you said Squidward, you're right, because Squidward, he's usually underreacting to everything. SpongeBob, just the way he acts, very methodical. And then part of the humor is watching the robot explode. The child will usually do something so much to the robot that the robot finally loses it and just explodes. If you watch the show The Office, you have Michael Scott, who is the child. You have Jim, who is the robot, kind of underreacts to everything, and every once in a while loses it. Then finally, you have the animal. The animal is all about bodily functions, eating, farting, that kind of thing. So who do you think out of the three, SpongeBob, Squidward, and Patrick, who is the animal? Well, of course, the only one left, it's Patrick, because Patrick's he's always eating all the time, and so he's very much the representation of the animal character. And so when you create a good comedy, having all three of those characters is always a good structure. If you look at Toy Story, you have Woody, who is the child, you have Buzz, who is the robot, and then you have different characters, like you have Mr. Potato Head, or you have the pig, who is at times the animal. So that's a great way to structure a comedy story.